The Earth Alliance is the official government of Earth and its colonies. It is a major galactic power in the 23rd century. Government. The Earth Alliance is a multi-tiered democratic federal republic, governed as a whole through a balance of power between a regionally elected representative body called the Senate, a president who is elected by the Alliance population as a whole, and a judicial branch. Both the Senate and the President have their offices in the Earth Alliance capital, which is known as Earthdome. Earthdome is located on Earth in the city of Geneva, Switzerland. History. Early history. The Earth Alliance was founded in 2085 by the countries of Australia, the United Kingdom, Canada, Ireland, the Netherlands, Japan, New Zealand, South Africa, and the United States in the aftermath of World War III. The founding nations also made great gains in colonizing space by founding small scientific colonies on Mars in 2101 and later the first full-scale civilian Mars colony in 2169. Also in the mid-2100s humans had indications of life elsewhere in the universe. Some private companies sent sleeper ships to look for intelligent life, including the USS Copernicus. Rise as a great power. In the mid-22nd century, contact was made between the Earth Alliance and the Centauri Republic. The Centauri gave the Earth Alliance access to its technology in exchange for some trade agreements. Initially the Earth Alliance used Centauri jump gates but soon began to build its own. The Earth Alliance experienced a great deal of growth soon after the introduction of new technologies. It began to expand across multiple systems, meeting many new species. In 2230, the Earth Alliance fought with the League of Non-Aligned Worlds against the Dilgar. A great amount of influence came to the Earth Alliance after coming to the aid of the League worlds. After defeating the Dilgar, the Earth Alliance fell into a period of aggressive expansion which continued until 2245. Earthmanbury War. After the war with the Dilgar, the Earth Alliance continued to expand until 2245. When first contact was made with the Minbari, in which a cultural misunderstanding ended in disaster. Misinterpreting a sign of respect for a hostile act, an Earth Force ship opened fire on a Minbari cruiser, unleashing a war which raged on for almost 3 years until mankind was beaten back to its home solar system. The last battle of the war was the Battle of the Line, where on the verge of total victory over the Earth Alliance, the Minbari abruptly surrendered under mysterious circumstances. A planetary draft was instituted during the war. After the war, Earth Force undertook a massive research and rebuilding program. Since the Minbari bypassed the majority of Earth's outposts and colonies and headed straight for Earth, this allowed Earth to rebuild very quickly after the war. Earth Force came out of the war much stronger than before, with new ships such as the Omega-class destroyer and later the Warlock. Earth Force after the war was obsessed with gaining new technology and being able to fight the Minbari in the event of another war, and the Minbari stealth system was broken. Another offshoot of this was the Babylon Project, which was started to prevent another war by allowing different races and cultures to work together in a neutral location toward resolving differences peacefully. With help from the Minbari and several other governments, the stations were constructed. The first 3 were destroyed by sabotage, and Babylon 4 disappeared mysteriously shortly after coming online. Babylon 5 was constructed and opened in 2257. Despite the attempts at reaching common ground with other races, an increasing number of xenophobic groups sprouted up all over the Earth Alliance. Groups such as Home Guard began to attack aliens. Secretly aided by the Psi Corps and the Shadows, Vice President Morgan Clark devised a plan to assassinate President Luis Santiago. In 2258 Santiago was killed when Earth Force 1 exploded at the transfer point by Io. Shortly after this, Clark assumed the office of the President of the Earth Alliance. With an increasing hand in policy, the Ministry of Peace and its enforcement arm, Nightwatch, soon began to weed out people who were not completely loyal to Clark and his administration. The Earth Alliance continued to take a turn towards an Orwellian-esque government. Earth Alliance Civil War. General William Hague, the chairman of the Earth Force Joint Chiefs of Staff, soon suspected a conspiracy around Santiago's death. This group soon began to expand, as many within started to become skeptical of the events surrounding the death of the president. Evidence was presented to the Earth Senate and coupled with the alien sighting at Ganymede, Clark declared martial law throughout Earth Central, citing threats to Earth security. Shortly afterwards he issued an executive order disbanding the Senate, then when the senators refused to cooperate, his elite guard opened fire on the Senate building. Meanwhile, Hague and a number of ships rebelled and went on the run, though Hague himself was later killed in action. On Mars, the provisional government refused to carry out the martial law order. In response, Clark ordered the bombing of civilian targets on the Mars colony, which in turn prompted the colonies at Proxima 3 and Orion 7 to break away from the Alliance. In an effort to prevent this from going public, the administration took control of the interstellar network news, though not before a brief stellarcast was made, telling people of the secessions before they could pull the plug. At the same time, an Earth Force task force was diverted to Babylon 5 with orders to arrest the command staff and put the station under the control of Nightwatch. Babylon 5 joined with Orion 7 and Proxima 3 and declared itself an independent state. The EAS Churchill and EAS Alexander joined Babylon 5 in repelling the assault. The Churchill was destroyed during the engagement and the Loyalist forces were eventually turned back only by the appearance of 3 Minbury war cruisers, led by Delenn aboard the White Star. Early in the following year, Clark ordered that Babylon 5 be added to the forbidden list for trade and travel, setting up a blockade and embargo to isolate the station from the Earth Alliance. However, Babylon 5 overcame this embargo with non-Earth aid. Proxima was not so lucky. Clark ordered a complete blockade of this colony. Warships loyal to Clark surrounded the planet and opened fire on civilians trying to escape, killing thousands. Upon learning this, Sheridan decided he could not tolerate Clark remaining in office any longer, took a fleet of White Stars to Proxima, and liberated the colony. He later convinced many of the surviving ships to join the White Stars, quickly forming a resistance movement. As the fleet advanced, more ships would defect to Sheridan's side and join the fight against Clark. The fleet of defecting Earth Alliance ships traveled to Mars to fight an assembled Clark-loyal fleet commanded by General Robert Lefcourt. With the help of cybernetically modified telepaths, the Clark-loyal fleet of over 30 Omega-class destroyers was disabled, thus allowing Sheridan to head straight for Earth without having to fight. After this, the fleet arrived at Earth and destroyed the weapons platforms that Clark had turned towards Earth in an attempt to destroy the entire population. Of course, this was not without losses, as many ships were destroyed by the Earth planet defense grid. The Earth defense grid's missiles mainly targeted fighters and destroyed many Star Furies and even destroyed a Minbury fighter in a single shot. Clark committed suicide and Susanna Luchenko of the Russian consortium was named the new president of the Earth Alliance. Shortly after this, Mars was granted its independence. Drac Plague. In December 2266, Earth was nearly destroyed by a Drac-controlled death cloud, and was subsequently infected by the Drac Plague. The Great Burn. During the years leading up to 2762, a series of historical events tying into constraint of territorial expansion and mounting anti-alien xenophobia resulted in Earth government ultimately being split down the middle regarding the Interstellar Alliance. One faction endorsed secession from the Alliance favored governmental policies resembling fascism and the destruction of entire civilian populations in order to achieve its aims. The other, carrying on the ideals of Captain Sheridan and the Alliance, favored much more moderate, humanitarian socio-military policies. This situation came ultimately to a head in 2762, during the 500th anniversary of the founding of the Alliance, with Earth on the brink of another civil war. The anti-Alliance faction plotted a preemptive military operation against their opposition's nations on Earth and extrasolar colonies. However, due to the actions of a scientist in the anti-Alliance faction involving unleashed artificial intelligence, the pro-Alliance faction was able to launch a preemptive nuclear strike of their own against anti-Alliance military bases. This act, though, would still lead to a greater, all-out thermonuclear conflict on Earth later known as the Great Burn, which would ultimately destroy most of the planet's major cities, and throw civilization back into a medieval, pre-industrial state for centuries to come. The surviving population developed an intense distrust of technology. The Earth Alliance's future after the Great Burn is completely unknown. It can be presumed that it ceased to have any influence on Earth itself, while it is possible that some off-world colonies managed to survive without Earth itself as a member until it rejoined after the rediscovery of space travel, many centuries later. This explains why humans are still around as rangers. Territory and colonies. The Earth Alliance, population estimated 15 billion, 2258, is a major galactic power. Outside its homeworld, it has heavily colonized the Sol system as well as a variety of other worlds. According to ISN, by 2259 the Alliance had established dozens of outposts and colonies in 14 different systems.